Allie Stewart, and welcome to Coyote Corner. Since joining the Missouri Valley Football Conference, there are just 3 league opponents that South Dakota has yet to defeat: Youngstown State, South Dakota State, and Western Illinois. Of course, the guy that led the Leathernecks to 3 of those 4 wins against USD is now coaching the Coyotes. Saturday, those worlds collided for Bob Nielsen as he faced off with his former team for the first time. From the Dakota Dome, it's the Yotes who strike first. Tristan Ducker takes the toss from Strevler 20 yards for his first career touchdown. It's 7-0 USD. The Leathernecks answer in a hurry. Steve McShane finds a seam. He's gone. 55 yards, and we're all tied up at 7. Now late in the first, it's 14-10 Western. Strevler finds Dakari Allen. Great grab. That's touchdown number 1 for him as well, and it's 17-14 Yotes after 1. The lead was 10 late in the second, but Strevler adds to it here. Dives in from a yard out. Coyotes up 31-14 at the half. Moving on to the third quarter, here comes Western Illinois. Jamie Gilmore caps the second of back-to-back touchdown drives with a 9-yard run, and just like that, it's a 3-point game. South Dakota looking to create some breathing room in the fourth. This helps a little bit. Strevler connects with Grant Van Rukel, 69 of his career high, 137 yards. That led to a field goal, and it's 34-28. Under 5 minutes to play, Yotes with a chance to tack on some insurance, but Trevor Bama fumbles into the end zone and Western Illinois recovers. The Leathernecks cash in on that turnover with 32 seconds remaining. Sean McGuire hits Joey Borsellino for a 2-yard score. Extra point puts Western on top, 35-34. South Dakota would get a chance to win it, but Miles Bergner's 54-yard attempt hooks wide left as time expires, and the Coyotes drop a tough one, 35-34. Strevler, in his first game back after missing the last game and a half with a concussion, puts up 480 yards of total offense, including 3 touchdowns. That earns him Missouri Valley Newcomer of the Week honors, and Van Rukel, also returning from injury after missing the past 4 games, looked healthier than ever. Number 88 hauls in 4 catches, good for a career-high 137 yards.
We've been playing really well in the first half of games, and then we come on in the second half and just haven't been closing the way we'd like to, so we've been able to kind of, survive the storm a little bit these past couple of weeks, but this week, it caught up to us, and we really just need to focus on, putting together complete ball games and, coming out second half and winning games.
We know what we have to work on, so that's what we'll be doing all next week. We have to get better. It's Missouri Valley, it's anybody's league. No one's really set in stone right now, so we're just going to take it one game at a time and, finish strong with these 3 games and, see where our cards may fall.
No one was more disappointed in Saturday's outcome than Bob Nielsen. We'll get his perspective on the heartbreaking loss to the Leathernecks after this.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and your Core Trust Bank.
South Dakota saw its 3-game win streak come to a heartbreaking end against Western Illinois on Saturday, and joining us today to give his perspective is USD head coach Bob Nielsen. Bob, I know this game had a lot of meaning to you, both personally and in terms of importance to your team. Does that make the result that much harder to swallow?
Well, it's a difficult loss. Our team had put itself in a position where now you look at it with a win, we'd be in first place in the league, and we've got to overcome that and move forward because now this game coming up this week is a big one as well.
Very true. And let's walk through how this all unfolded. Western comes into this game ranked 4th in the FCS in time of possession, but in the first half, South Dakota was dominating in that statistic. You guys held the ball for just over 20 minutes. What was the key to controlling the clock?
We did a good job sustaining drives, converting third downs and making plays at critical times, and did a good job getting the ball in the end zone. And one of the things we knew coming in is we're going to have to control the football and take advantage of every possession, and certainly did that in the first half.
And with the ball in your possession for that long, it gave your offense the opportunity to really get rolling, to make a lot of plays. They did that. 5 of your plays, in fact, covered at least 20 yards, and you had at least one of those on 4 of your 5 first-half scoring drives. That can't be a coincidence. Schematically, what were you able to exploit?
We felt we had the opportunity to make some big plays on the perimeter, and Chris came in missing last week's game, threw the ball in great spots, made a couple of plays with his feet himself, and that was really our game plan going in, and we executed it very well in the first half.
So you go into the halftime break leading 31-14, but in the third quarter, the second half, the script was completely flipped. Third down success had a lot to do with that. After going 0 for 5 in the first half, Leathernecks converts 7 of 11 chances over the final 2 quarters. Meanwhile, your team hits on 8 of 13 attempts in the first half, but went 0 for 9 in the second. Why'd things turn around so dramatically?
Well, they did a good job. They executed. I thought we had the right defensive calls a couple of times on those third down situations, and they made a couple of plays. In ours, it was a combination of things. We turned the ball over on a third down. We had a couple of other opportunities to keep drives alive, and some of the plays that we made in the first half we didn't make. And the other thing is we got ourselves off schedule a couple times in those drives, and that's really what we walk away from in the game is we had opportunities to score more points in the second half and didn't get it done.
All right, now let's fast forward to the fourth quarter. You get a field goal to stretch the lead to 6. You put yourselves in position to make it a 2-score ball game with 5 minutes to go. For the first time all season, you come up empty in the red zone. Trevor Bama fumbles on the 1-yard line. They recover in the end zone, get that touchback. What happened on that play?
Well, we made what we thought was a pretty safe call. Hopefully getting the ball in the end zone. If not, an opportunity to kick a field goal and stretch the game into a 2-point game. Trevor got hit, from a guy coming off the edge, a guy that I don't think he saw, and it was one of those hits that the helmet got right on the football, and unfortunately came loose, and their guy recovered, and obviously a big turning point in the game, but it wasn't the only turning point in the game.
Mm-hmm. And Western Illinois turned that turnover into the go-ahead touchdown. There's 32 seconds remaining. You guys have the ball back. You would get a chance to win it on the final play, but came up short. Can you take us through that final drive?
Yeah, we defensively had third down a couple of different times, even had them 4th and 10 at a point where we could have ended the game by stopping them. I'll give Western credit. They made plays to keep that drive alive and got the ball in the end zone. I was proud of the way our guys responded and got the ball down the field in the final 32 seconds to have a chance to win it at the end.
Yeah, they definitely responded well, just like I said, coming up a little short. Unfortunately, you've been in this position before, so what did you tell your team afterwards, and what's their morale at right now?
Well, it was a hard loss. I talked to our team in the locker room that, we've been kind of living on the edge in all of these games, and when you live that close to the edge, sometimes it doesn't always go your way, and Saturday was one of those games where at critical times it didn't go our way, and we've got to be a better football team. We've got to go back to work this week. We're still in a position where we can control our own destiny in the conference race, and very few teams can say that right now.
That's true. And on a happier note, you did get a couple of guys back from injury this game, and both produced in a big way. Let's start with your quarterback, Chris Strevler. Missed the previous game with a concussion, but definitely showed no signs of rust. He accounts for 475 total yards, 3 touchdowns, and earns the Valley's Newcomer of the Week award. Brant Van Rokel made 4 catches for a career-high 137 yards in his return off of that elbow injury. How good is it to have both of them back healthy?
Well, it's really important for our football team. Those two guys are playmakers, and on the offensive side, we need all the playmakers that we can possibly have on the field. And it was good that not just to get them back, but good to get them back and see them play at that high level.
Definitely great to have, like you said, not only back, but making plays for their team and providing that great leadership, so that's for sure. Thank you, Bob. Thanks for joining us today. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at this week's matchup at Southern Illinois, but first, Andre Fields stops by to give his take on Saturday's loss to the Leathernecks. That's next on Coyote Corner. We've shown you the highlights and heard the head coach's thoughts. Now it's time for our expert to weigh in on the loss to Western Illinois. Midco SN analyst Andre Fields joins us now to talk Saturday storylines. Andre, there is no way around it. This one hurt, and it hurt because it got away. And the Coyotes have struggled to put teams away earlier this season, even during their 3-game winning streak. This is the second time it has come back to haunt them.
Yeah, and the thing about this one is that, of course, it's a loss, and it's a loss by 1 point, so that also hurts. But the momentum that they had gained over the last 3 weeks, that really kind of put a damper on the mood, because now we put a lot of pressure on ourselves trying to move forward into the rest of the schedule, knowing that you have to probably win 2 out of your next 3 to even be in consideration for a playoff spot.
And talking to Bob earlier today, he said at least they are in somewhat control of their own destiny, but how much of it do you think is mental at this point?
Well, I think, it's not very mental for them at all, because they've been in close games all season long. I mean, 3 times they've been in double overtime. The rest of the time that they've won the game, it's been by 3 points or less. So right now, it's just a matter of not letting it get away from the guys, just telling them, hey, we got to go in, fix 1 or 2 things, maybe shore up some things on both sides of the ball so that we can guarantee ourselves to come out on top when we have a lead.
And now getting game specific, the Coyotes' success in the red zone has been well documented. South Dakota was just one of 3 FCS teams that had converted on every one of its chances. They were 18 for 18 coming in, then hit their first 6 on Saturday before the streak came to an end on Trevor Bauma's 4th quarter fumble. Tough to see that run come to an end, made worse by the fact that turnover is what led to Western Illinois' go-ahead score.
Yeah, and we knew it wasn't going to last forever, but it was obviously a very good stat to be perfect in the red zone. But unfortunately for USD, like you mentioned, that it came at that particular time and that Western was able to go in and turn that into points. It's one of those things where, you don't really even think about the streak, but you do think about the fact that you had the opportunity to close it away right then and there, and they weren't able to do it.
Definitely a tough thing to think about. Considering this as well, South Dakota had outscored its opponents 38-0 off turnovers over the previous 15 quarters, so that Leatherneck's touchdown also put an end to that streak.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, you're going to think about that, but then you're going to put it in the rearview mirror. I'm sure they've already done that by now and move on to the next game. But defensively, they have to know that, yes, it's not just about getting stops, it's about getting stops at key situations. They didn't do that at times on Saturday, and that's what led to the loss.
Now talking more about the defense, defensively, 3rd down success also played a huge role in South Dakota's recent run, and the same was true through the first half on Saturday. Western Illinois was 0 for 5 in the first half, but things completely turned around over the final 2 quarters, where the Leathernecks converted on 7 of their last 11 chances. What's the more frustrating part of that if you're on that defense? The fact that it happened, or the fact that it came at a time when you had been performing so well in those situations?
Well, it's hard to say, because the fact that it happened, people are going to convert on 3rd downs. You can't keep everybody away, but it is a great stat, because defensively you need to get off the field and get the ball back for the offense. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to do that in the second half. I mean, you got to give Western Illinois some credit here. They made the adjustments they needed to make at halftime. So really, it's just one of those things where now you go back and adjust and see if you can start a new streak.
And we've talked about, the tough parts from Saturday, but let's close on one of the bright spots, and that was the passing game. Chris Strevler becomes the first South Dakota quarterback to throw for over 300 yards since 2013, and he really spread it around. Brant Van Rukel had a big day. Tristan Ducker and Dakari Allen each caught their first career touchdowns. In your eyes, what does all of that indicate?
Well, it indicates that they have a lot of playmakers on this offense. They're not able to take the defense and focus in on one particular player or the running game. So with all of those weapons, that means you got to play the whole field, and that's going to make it hard on a lot of defenses.
Now specifically, let's talk about Van Rukel. He finished with 4 catches for a career best 137 yards in his first game back from injury. How important is that to have a healthy number 88 in the lineup?
Oh, it's huge, because he's the only receiver that's over probably 6 feet, over 6'1", at standing at 6'4", and he's a huge asset. Again, it's going to help them be able to not be one-dimensional. Teams are going to have to be able to cover everyone, and when you do that, you open yourself up to some big plays.
All right, well, good stuff, Andre. We'll see you next week. With the loss to Western Illinois, this week's game at Southern Illinois has become that much more important. We'll preview the matchup with the Salukis next. Welcome back. Not only did the loss to Western Illinois snap South Dakota's 3-game winning streak, it also dropped the Coyotes to a 4th-place tie with the Leathernecks. Bob Nielsen's team stands at 4-4 overall and 3-2 in the Valley, which means the margin for error is razor thin.
Well, if you're going to have an opportunity to be in the conference race at the end, every game from here on out is really a big game and a game that you're going to have to win, I think, to have a chance. We've talked to our guys about that with the situation that we're in. We're in a situation where we can still control our own destiny, and that starts this week.
The good news is the home stretch begins with the only winless team in the Valley. But Nielsen says Southern Illinois' 0-5 record is not an accurate reflection of its ability.
They're a very good football team. They've struggled winning close games, as a lot of teams have done in the league. And they've got very talented skill players on the offensive side, very balanced offensive attack, and a defense that plays a very aggressive style. So it's going to be a challenge for our team to go down there and get a win on the road.
That offense he mentioned is one of the best statistically that the Coyotes will face this season. The Salukis currently ranked second in the Valley in both total and passing offense. They also scored just under 31 points per game, which is good enough for third.
They do a really good job of throwing the ball to the perimeter and stretching the field from sideline to sideline. And so from a defensive standpoint, you've got to first and foremost stop the run, but you also have to be able to contain their perimeter game, and those will be the things that we'll work on this week and be ready for that challenge on Saturday.
South Dakota visits Carbondale and Saluki Stadium this Saturday with kickoff set for 2 p.m. Central. It's just the third meeting all-time between the schools. They split the first two, with the home team winning both. Jay Elson will be traveling with USD once again, so be sure to follow along for updates at midcosn.com and on Twitter at ElsonMidcoSN. Well, they've been teammates for 14 years, but they've been brothers literally since birth. Identical twins Alex and Andrew Gray might not be able to read each other's minds out on the field, but they've both stepped in to make a big impact for the Coyote defense this season. We'll have their story next.
Coyote Corner on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dakota Land Honda, and your Core Trust Bank.
Welcome back. Well, it's not unheard of for brothers to play for the same college team, but having identical twins on the roster is fairly uncommon. Redshirt sophomores Alex and Andrew Gray have always shared a special bond as twin brothers, and for them, playing college football together is just an added bonus. Go, Andrew. For the Gray brothers, football has been a way of life. They started playing when they were just 6 years old, and it didn't take long for these crystal-haired children to fall in love with the game. Good job, Alex! Fast forward 14 years, and they're redshirt sophomores at the University of South Dakota. Alex plays linebacker, Andrew plays safety.
We've never really been apart, and it was kind of scary thinking that we could be apart for more than a couple days.
Andrew, the older of the two by 26 minutes, stands 6'1", weighing 195 pounds. Alex is a little bigger at 6'2", 210, but Andrew says that's only because he had more time to grow. This season, they've both seen a good amount of playing time for the Coyotes, and there's no doubt they've been having fun out there.
It's extraordinary. Not a lot of people get to play with their brother, let alone their twin, so it's a great opportunity for us.
But don't let the soft-spoken interviews fool you. These two brothers are wild at heart. And if anyone knows that, it's their coaches.
It's fun. That's the biggest thing, is those guys bring a lot of energy and both play off each other and the guys around them. So they're both disciplined enough and intelligent enough football players that when it's come to get to work, they'll do that, but they keep things pretty light.
And while their looks may be the same, besides the hair of course, their personalities definitely differ at times.
You know, I think Andrew is probably the louder of the two. He can tell he probably ate Alex's food when he was little. I mean, probably stole his toys too, you know what I mean? But that's probably the biggest difference, is Andrew's just a little more outgoing.
As expected, after 20 years of life together, there is no shortage of stories between these two.
It's one time, our junior year of high school, he got a pass interference on a 3rd and 20, and I started yelling at him, smacked him in the helmet, and then he smacked me back, and then we just turned to punches. And our coach had to burn a timeout to calm us down.
And although the Gray brothers might get in a few brotherly fights every now and then, they are the first to have each other's back on and off the field. Well, the South Dakota cross-country teams brought a bright spot back to Vermilion this weekend after an outstanding performance at the Summit League Championships in Macomb, Illinois. The Coyote men finished fourth, while the women became the fourth program in history to capture 3 straight Summit League Championship titles. In action at Spring Lake Park, the South Dakota women edged North Dakota State with 43 points to the Bison's 48. In the past 3 years, this has been USD's narrowest margin of victory. Freshman Julia Noah paced the Coyotes with a third-place finish, and junior Erin Wettstein followed in fourth. Noah and Wettstein both earned a spot on the first team for the first time, and Noah also took home the Newcomer of the Championship award as she was the top freshman finisher. Megan Billington and Lindsay Joyce captured second-team honors for the Yotes as well. On the men's side, the Coyotes tallied 131 points, pacing themselves behind SDSU, IUPUI, and NDSU. Senior Mach DeJoik placed 14th to earn a spot on the All-Summit League second team, clocking his second fastest 8,000-meter time this season in 26 minutes, 10.5 seconds. The Coyotes resume action at the NCAA Midwest Regional on November 11th in Iowa City. Taking it back to Vermilion, the volleyball team was in action Friday and Saturday and swept both opponents. In Friday's match versus Omaha, Audrey Rieg led the way with 13 kills, 8 digs, and 3 blocks. That win marked USD's 20th victory on the season, the most since joining the Division I level. On Saturday, the Yotes took down Western Illinois, and it was Rieg again leading the way. She slammed down 15 kills to go with 16 digs and a block, and now ranked 7th on USD's all-time kills list. That is our time for this week. For Jay Elson, I'm Kelly Stewart. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night for another episode of Coyote Corner.